What's this week's Parsha? Oh, and what should we name it? Ta-da! Hello, and welcome back to another insightful Torah. This week's Parsha is Parshas Tetzavah. In Parshas Tetzavah, it discusses, in kind of continuation from last week, discussing the different vessels that were in the traveling temple. This week talks about the different clothing that the Kohanim, the priests, would wear in and while serving in the traveling temple, along with different practices that were done in the temple. Now, in the last Parsha, we discussed the two rooms of the temple, the inner rooms. The innerst room was the Holy of Holies, which had the ark, which housed the Torah, and was the holiest room of the traveling temple, so too by the Holy Temple, which was in Jerusalem. The Holy of Holies was also the most holiest room of the entire temple complex. Outside of that room was another room called the Kodesh, just the Holy. So it was the Holy of Holies, which was the holiest. That was when only the high priest would go there on Yom Kippur, and the rest of the year, the priest would go to the outer room called the Kodesh. That was the holy room, and that room had three different vessels in it. It had the menorah, which the Kohen, the priest, would light. Then on the other side, it had the showbread, which was the 12 breads that they used to make. And then there was another vessel called the Mizbeach, the altar. Now there are two altars. There's the inner altar and the outer altar. The outer altar was used for different animal sacrifices, and the inner one was meant for smaller ketoras offerings, which were the incense offerings, very holy, special incense offerings brought in the temple. Now, last week we discussed the menorah, the candelabra, the holy menorah, and then we also discussed the showbread, but we didn't discuss the mizbeach, the inner altar. That was talked about in this week's parsha at the end. The question is why? Why was the mizbeach separate from the other vessels in the temple? The answer is simple. The service which was done with the inner mizbeach, the inner altar, was the ketoras, this incense offering. The incense offering, when it was offered, was done in private. It was just the Kohen, just the priest alone in that room and no one else. There was no fanfare, there was no one watching. It was a very private, intimate, with God type of service. And the reason why this is so, the reason why it was because it's not the reason. The point is, that's what the Parsha is trying to teach us, that by the fact that the Ketoras, which was the offering brought on the inner Mizbeach, inner altar, was done in a secret type of way. It was done anonymously, without fanfare. That's why the Parsha split it up by putting the other two together and this one by itself, to bring out the point that it's done in private. And the lesson for us is that when we do a good deed for someone else, so we should try doing it for the correct motive, the right reason. And the right reason is to help that person out because we want to help the person out, or to do the good deed, the mitzvah, the commandment or connection to God, in order to connect to God, and no ulterior motives. Some people would want to get a lot of fanfare and want everyone to watch, but there's something about having that intimate connection between you and God when you do a mitzvah, when you do a connection, you make a connection to Hashem, that there's something special between you and Hashem, and it's something private and special and treasured. And that's why it's made separate in this week and other weeks. So that's the lesson for us. Now, someone might ask, well, maybe I need, in order to do the mitzvah, make the connection, I need some credit. I want to get credit from my people. I want to get some recognition. The point is, not a problem, because with doing it for maybe ulterior motives, maybe for not the most correct reasons, eventually by doing it more often we do it, eventually we'll come to do that thing for the most correct reason. And although it might be hard to do a lot of make different connections without all the fanfare, maybe we need that and we feel important that way. And the point is, we should strive, at least our goal should be, I want to eventually do this, make this connection just for the sake of making the connection to God and no ulterior motives, even though it's a hard place to get. That's the goal, and that's the mountain we should be looking at in order to climb. That should be our goal, and that should be where we want to be. At least if we're not there today, at least we just strive to be there one day. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. It helps the channel, and I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much. Have an amazing day.